Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for January the 31st of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news that you need to know from around the industry. Hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, right here on YouTube and podcast services around the world. So if you enjoy the show, you like what you see, be sure to hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. But today we have plenty of news to dive into. We're talking about remote play for the PlayStation 4 potentially coming to the Nintendo Switch, according to a survey being sent around on Reddit. Then PlayStation 4 game sales have definitely hit their highest point ever, and a lot of games were actually sold in 2019 alone. Then we're talking more about Google Stadia and a pathetic excuse they've got for why no more games have been announced. Nintendo Switch Online has reached a brand new milestone with more to come as the Animal Crossing Special Edition Nintendo Switch rolls out. And finally, we'll talk about what some ex-BioWare vets are doing at a brand new Wizards of the Coast studio. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. First off, Sony is exploring PS4 Remote play on Nintendo Switch with a portable DualShock controller in the talks as well. Sony is doing some research into the PlayStation 4's popular remote play feature, potentially teasing some tantalizing new ways to play. As part of a survey shared on Reddit, the manufacturer asked whether respondents would be interested in streaming their games to other devices like the Nintendo Switch or Apple TV. It also asked whether users would be enticed by an offline version of remote play, though it does not elaborate on how this would actually work. Elsewhere in the questionnaire, the platform holder posits the possibility of playing previous generation games such as PS1 and PS2 via remote play. There are also references to minor quality of life improvements, such as the removal of unused controls on touchscreens to free up display space. But perhaps most interesting of all is reference to a smaller portable on-the-go DualShock, which would include a screen and allow you to play your games in a more convenient Wii U-esque format. They're all interesting ideas, and while they are unlikely to all be in active production, it is fascinating to learn a little bit more about where the Japanese giant's mindset is at. And how do you think remote play could be improved? They ask at Push Square. Oh, let me count the ways. Does anybody have a pen and paper? It could be improved in a variety of ways. Primarily, I wouldn't have to be connected to the same Wi-Fi signal to actually get the service to work, first and foremost. But on top of that, I think that the technology has a pretty good foundation, and I've used it multiple times throughout my life, especially when I was living at home and I had multiple people trying to use the living room TV. If I was playing Uncharted 4, for instance, and then my dad came in and was like, hey, guess what? Game's on. Get your ass out of my chair. Then I could just take a PlayStation Vita and move over to the couch, keep playing my game, watch the game with dad, good to go. That is pretty much the main utility that I think a lot of people use this for. But the main question I'm asking is, how many people actually use the remote play feature for the PlayStation Vita, especially in pretty much any time period after 2016? Probably not that many, if I did have to guess. Now, every game is compatible with this technology, so if you have a Vita lying around, you can charge it up, you can remote play through your PlayStation 4, regardless of whether or not it's the Pro or the Slim or the OG. But I think that going forward, with Project xCloud becoming a big contender on the mobile space, and with Stadia continuing to hold its own, PlayStation could easily get into the mix by allowing remote play to kind of evolve and become something that is possible on Nintendo Switch, on Apple TV, potentially even on mobile. But specifically focusing on the Nintendo Switch, that's a game changer because, hypothetically, Game Pass is supposedly going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch along with Project xCloud if that partnership continues between Microsoft and Nintendo, as was announced a couple of years back. So if that's the case, the Nintendo Switch immediately skyrockets in value because it, coupled with the power of cloud computing, essentially makes the perfect on-the-go gaming solution fit in the palm of your hands. And a Nintendo Switch Lite is currently on Amazon $199. That is entirely too accessible to even try and resist. I would buy one instantaneously. The day the Game Pass comes to the Nintendo Switch is the day that I sign up and get one. Immediately. And so I think that with that kind of mindset for me, it's definitely a mindset that a lot of other people have because I'm very cheap. Very, very cheap to begin with. And so if I'm considering it, I know a ton of other people are as well. But regardless, interesting survey to see over there on Reddit. Again, none of this is confirmed, but very interesting to say the least. In regards to the portable on-the-go DualShock, if they are going to be investing in wireless technology, and if they are going to be really embracing cloud computing and the power of PlayStation Now combined with remote play, then it seems kind of sensible to include DualShock with a screen on it, because that makes things much, much easier to actually accomplish when it comes to playing a game in a full kind of way on the go. But personally, I would probably go the Nintendo Switch route or the Razer route, where the DualShock 4 or the DualShock, whatever you want to call it, DualShock Go, why not, pulls apart and you can put a phone in the middle of it. That makes way more sense to me. Should I patent it? I don't know. That's just my thought. But regardless, excited to see what the future of the PlayStation 5 looks like. And on top of that, the future of PlayStation as a whole, because it could be more mobile than we think. But I'll tell you right now, you people are buying some games. All y'all's out there getting all Big Mama's house too on you and the podcast. Anyways, PlayStation 4 game sales now sit at an estimated 1.181 billion copies sold. During CES 2020 earlier this year, Sony announced that the estimated sell-through numbers for the PlayStation 4 software set at 1.15 billion as of December the 31st of 2019. In the weeks since then, the company has updated game sales data for PlayStation 4 based on additional figures from retailers and the PlayStation Store. Now, Sony estimates 1.181 billion games have actually been sold on the platform as of December the 31st of 2019. Sony Interactive Entertainment shared the new figures in a press release, citing a desire to maintain accuracy as the reason for the update. While this is indeed impressive, it is worth noting these numbers are an estimate gathered from SIE's own research. The company's overview additionally clarifies that sales of add-on content do not count towards the cumulative number of sold through units. Actual figures were gathered according to the following. Japan figures are from February 22nd, 2014 to the 31st of December 2019. North American figures are from the 15th of November 2013 to, of course, the last day of last year. Latin American figures started on November 29th of 2013, along with European figures, and Asian figures started on December the 17th of 2013 because of that staggered kind of release time frame for the PlayStation 4 itself around the world. Sony's reported data also makes note of last year's sales figures around the same time period. Reportedly, as of December 31st, 2018, PS4 game sales had topped 924 million worldwide as of the newly updated estimates provided. This suggests an estimated 257 million PS4 games were sold throughout 2019. Along with the PS5 logo reveal, this year's CES conference also saw the company reveal that 106 million PS4 consoles have been sold since launch, and PSVR is also selling very well at 5 million units sold since its release in 2016. Along with that, PSN boasts 103 monthly active users. Just kidding, 103 million. There's more than just a handful of Fortnite players, and 38.8 million of them are PlayStation Plus subscribers. So, I think that what this shows is that the attachment rate has become much, much higher for the PlayStation 4 as compared to any other console this generation, and certainly as compared to the PlayStation 3. And the attach rate is pretty much how many people go out and buy more than just one or two games. It is much higher if this figure is to be believed. And on top of that, 2019 is a very big year if they sold 257 million PS4 games alone in that specific period of time. But that does make sense because you have to consider that a lot of people have a specific amount in their mind that they spend on video games every year or every month. They have an allotment, an allowance, if you will. And so whenever there is no new console coming out and it is comfortably in the middle of a console cycle, they shift less towards hardware and more towards actually buying software that they play because they're comfortable in knowing that they don't have to upgrade and lose all of the investment that they've made by investing in these games. So whenever that comfort does set in, you begin to have people really embrace the new console, or at least the newest console, and that's pretty much what you see with 2019. Because although you do have the announcement of the PlayStation 5 and the announcement of Project Scarlet, which is now Xbox Series X, people are still comfortable that they have about a year or two before they actually have to worry about investing in upgrades, so they can take that funding and enjoy the games that are already out. Plus, last year there were a ton of awesome games that came out, PlayStation exclusives and otherwise. But regardless, very good sales for the PlayStation 4. Kudos to them for continuing to push the boundaries. But finally, Let's talk more about Google Stadia. I've been waiting for this one all day, let me tell you. Google says upcoming Stadia game announcements are up to the publishers, and that's a direct quote. As one of the most prominent examples of the industry's move towards game streaming and a completely online interface, Google Stadia is in the last few months, I can't read today, has seemed to deliver mixed results. While the platform offers promising tech and a vision of what's in store for game streaming, Stadia itself has been hampered by a lackluster selection of games and a number of its highly touted features being unavailable at launch. That has led to a number of subscribers expressing their unhappiness with the platform so far on social media, with Google responding to some of that feedback. Recently, Google came under a bit of scrutiny from Stadia subscribers due to the platform's slow trickle of new releases since it debuted last November. Primarily aggregated on a growing Reddit thread, the major complaint from Google Stadia subscribers has been that Stadia's development team has not been transparent or consistent in providing development updates or announcements of upcoming games. In a statement to GI.biz, Google clarified a few points in response to subscriber criticisms, especially in regard to upcoming game announcements. A spokesperson for Google explained that while they understand, quote, the desire to hear more specifics, end quote, on upcoming game announcements, they clarified that, and this is where you start paying attention, not all 120 titles will be announced by the Stadia team in terms of promotion. Specifically, they expressed that, quote, we leave it up to the publishers to make the announcement about their IP/games and which platforms it will appear on, just as we will do with the exclusive content coming to Stadia. According to the report from GI.biz, Google expressed that there are a number of factors that contribute to why the company is seemingly taking a hands-off approach to game announcements, such as planned promotions or events, title readiness, shareholder requirements, and more. However, the spokesperson added that the Stadia team is going to work closely with publishers and developers to provide support where needed, and that more information on upcoming games would be coming soon. Recently, Google had detailed that it was expecting over 120 new titles to come to Stadia throughout 2020, along with 10 new exclusives to the platform. However, since the platform's debut in November, the reception of the platform itself has seemed to be on the mixed side, as many early adopters have been cautious of whether or not to stick with the platform due to its limited game selection and Google's shaky history of sticking with previous platforms and tech. Given that the system itself has already been slow to bring in new subscribers, it's unclear just yet what direction Google is taking the system in, especially with so many of its promised features still missing in action at the moment. It continues to get worse, doesn't it? Okay, so going into the world of Google Stadia, I was hoping for the best. Genuinely, I was. But as time has gone on, I've lost more and more faith in what Stadia is trying to do. Of course, for those that don't know, Stadia is basically a cloud-based streaming service that turns any Google Chrome browser, Google Pixel phone, in general, any of that kind of stuff, into a way to play a game. And it worked very well in the world of Project Stream, which was the beta/alpha version of that software and hardware that allowed me to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey on Google Chrome on a laptop. It was really neat. It ran very well, but as time has gone on, the Digital Foundry team and other comparison sites have performed analysis and shown that even the base console versions of games are much more responsive and in general run better. There's always going to be some kind of lag until this technology continues to improve. And so it was already at a disadvantage coming out of the gate, but on top of the disadvantage from the tech side of things, the Stadia team has not been very communicative of what they are actually working on and when games can be expected. And this excuse is just that. It's an excuse. Because if you look at what PlayStation is doing, do you see them taking a hands-off approach and saying, hey, they can announce their game whenever they want to announce their game? Absolutely not. You see PlayStation every day tweeting about new small indie games, new third-party games, new first-party games. You see them always talking about what games you can play on the platform. On top of that, with Xbox, you have people like Major Nelson and the official Xbox team and the Game Pass team all talking about games that are coming and that they can provide for their users. Meanwhile, Stadia is just making up small excuses on Twitter to keep people at least marginally calm in the face of a growing unrest, and that's not the right way to go about doing this kind of thing. And so all of that to say, I don't know where Stadia is going to be in a year from now, but it probably will not be in a very good place. And what's so shocking to me is that, excuse me, I bumped the mic. What's so shocking to me is that so much money and so many funds have been poured into this project that for it to flop this hard within just a couple of months after release is really devastating for the bottom line. Of course, Google is not going to be going out of business by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely going to hurt, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of these in development games be thrown out, and on top of that, maybe even some studios shut down. You don't like to say it, you don't like to see it, but you like to be truthful, and that could be the truth. However, Nintendo Switch Online, on the other hand, is reaching 15 million paid accounts as Nintendo is worried about, quote, those who do not renew their memberships. We will continue to enhance the appeal of the service, they say. In the most recent corporate management policy briefing for the fiscal year ending in March 2020, we get a tiny little update from Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa on the state of the Switch Online service. Surprisingly, it's a little melancholy. Furukawa confirms that Nintendo has coaxed 15 million people into paid memberships for Switch Online, but as usual, there is more work to do. As he notes himself, while new members continue to join, there are also those who do not renew their memberships. We will continue to enhance the appeal of the service to bring more features and more fun to Nintendo Switch, the understatement so far of 2020. So let's break it down and do some basic math. God help me, the author says. The current lifetime sales number for the Switch is 52.48 million, and the reported paid memberships are 15 million. That's roughly 28% of all Switch users, not accounting for family plan shenanigans, but accounting for free trials, as once again Nintendo specifies paid memberships in its briefing. That is respectable and up from the 9.8 million figure we got midway through last year. But Nintendo is right, it needs to more aggressively make Switch Online more appealing if it wants to keep growing. And right now, I think that one of the main problems that Nintendo is facing with Nintendo Switch Online is a lack of marketing and a lack of communication about what the service itself actually is, and on top of that, about its availability. Of course, with PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold, they are somewhat different than Nintendo Switch Online because they are well established and they've been around since the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. Nintendo Switch Online, relatively new, does not have a catchy title like Live or Plus, but I think that Nintendo people are paying attention to it. Outside of that, not too many people are. And so when the free games for Plus and Live get announced for the month, everybody's paying attention to it. I talk about it here on the podcast. You see tweets go viral about it, where you see just like a couple of days ago, whenever you heard about the BioShock collection going free to play on PSN for the month of February 2020. That was trending on Twitter. Nintendo Switch Online, that baby ain't trending on Twitter. So that's pretty much the goal, is to generate conversation. And I think the first step towards generating conversation is for them to actually talk about it. And of course, make the service better as well, because people talk about a service when a service is good. Game Pass, people talk about that one. You know why? Because it's good. You see anybody talking about GameFly that's not paid on a podcast? Nah, you don't. Because it's not good anymore. But Nintendo Switch Online doing very well with 15 million paid accounts, but could do better. Again, only just over 20% of the Nintendo Switch Online, or I suppose the Nintendo Switch users are actually subscribed. Specifically 28% of the total user base. However, more could be jumping on board with Nintendo's special Animal Crossing Nintendo Switch coming in March, specifically on March the 13th. The $300 console switches up color schemes and even has a themed dock. The first new Animal Crossing game on consoles in several years is almost here, and Nintendo is rolling out a special edition of its Switch to mark the occasion. The $300 Switch will arrive on March the 13th, a week before the launch of Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's covered in pastel colors with two-tone Joy-Cons and a white dock that has some of the game's characters painted on it. The only thing it doesn't come with is the game itself, and you'll have to buy it separately. Pause. Hard stop. That's bullshit. Straight up. I don't even care. You need to include your game if you're going to be giving me a console that's themed after the game. Why would I want to buy an Animal Crossing Nintendo Switch if the game isn't included? That is the most ridiculous pile. Oh my God, that blows my mind. But if you do want it, it's available for pre-order at Best Buy if you're already throwing your money at the screen, or you can just buy the game itself and play it on a normal Switch or a Switch Lite. Your choice. On the other hand, if you can't get enough bet, if you can't get enough but you just don't need another console, Nintendo's releasing themed Aloha Edition carrying cases and screen protector packages on the 13th for both the Switch and the Switch Lite. The real good news, though, is that after a slew of video game delays that included Animal Crossing slipping from its planned launch date last fall, it looks like this one is going to be ready to go on March the 20th. And so if you want to dive in and play on the brand new Nintendo Switch with the Animal Crossing theme, by all means you can dive in and make it your own. I must admit I'm a big fan of the pastel colors. However, I'm not a big Animal Crossing guy myself, so I'm not going to be getting one of these. And I also don't own a Switch currently. I'm really on the fence about getting a Switch Lite, but that's a topic for another day. I just bought a TV. I'm good to go for a while. However, if you do want to dive in and play Animal Crossing Horizons or New Horizons, excuse me, I don't want all the Animal Crossing fans to come beat me up. But if you want to get in on the action, by all means, this one is launching on the 13th, and you can play not only Animal Crossing New Horizons, but every other Nintendo Switch game. And potentially, even this brand new game from a new studio from Wizards of the Coast, with Ex-BioWare vets working on a new story-driven sci-fi game. Wizards of the Coast, the publisher behind Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons, has unveiled its new video game development studio, Archetype Entertainment. It's being helmed by two ex-BioWare vets, and its first title will be a new story-driven sci-fi RPG. First word of Wizards of the Coast new studio arrived last April when the company announced it was teaming up with former BioWare creative director and lead designer James Olin, who previously worked on the likes of Baldur's Gate, Dragon Age Origins, Neverwinter Nights, and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, to build a whole new development team. Wizards of the Coast has now revealed the studio's name, Archetype Entertainment, and confirmed that the autonomous division based in Austin, Texas, will be the new home for another BioWare alumni, Chad Robertson, who most recently served as head of live services on Anthem until his departure last November. I think it's actually Archetype, isn't it? Because that's a hard sound. Yeah, it's Archetype. Archetype is what it's called. I don't need your comments down below. Olin is to be Archetype's head of studio, while Robertson, who is also head of technology and studio director at BioWare Austin, will be VP and general manager. Although details of Archetype's first project are limited, the studio says it's building a team to work on a multi-platform role-playing game set in a new science fiction universe. According to the company's mission statement, quote, "We believe there will always be a place for story-driven role-playing games that put the player at the center of an epic personal narrative with impactful choices. We are building games that represent the diversity of our audience, but hopefully it won't be too long before Archetype is ready to share more." In my opinion, take your time. But there is some art that shows off what they could be working on. Overall, I love new ideas, and Anthem was a new idea. So there is a lot of potential here with at least one member of this two-man team. And on top of that, the team they are putting together is certainly going to be fleshed out and certainly able to accomplish much, much more. But so often you see these worlds begin to kind of become norms in the gaming industry. They become famous in a way. And that's not bad, because a sequel always improves on the foundation, or at least attempts to do so. And so that does bring some innovation there. But to have new ideas, genuinely new worlds to explore, that's something that's special. And it's kind of like how Destiny came about. That's the first one that comes to mind. Because whenever Bungie said they were not going to be doing any more Halo projects and that they were working on something entirely new, who would have thought that it would turn into Destiny, which is basically one of the biggest FPS MMO games in the world. And it is something entirely different, entirely new. And now, year 3 into game 2, still absolutely killing it. And it is a worldwide sensation with a free-to-play model and everything. So that kind of innovation is something that I hope to see from the team over here at Archetype Entertainment, but I suppose we will have to wait and see until more info is officially revealed. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. Thank you for another week of content here on the channel. If you want to check out some of the other episodes from throughout the week, by all means, they are all up on the playlist and ready and waiting for you. But of course, the show itself is hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. The drop is on Sunday and in between. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. But until next time, have a good one, and peace.